with this album, Our Place, compared to most of the previous releases I've heard from you. I was surprised at how absolutely non-guitar driven it is. You know, I think there was maybe one moment where there was the sort of acoustic guitar, and then I think I spotted the fretless sustain guitar at one point. But other than those two instances, it was pretty much guitarless. So was that like a conscious decision that you wanted to make? You thought, I want to do something that doesn't focus around guitar whatsoever, or did it just end up happening that way when you were writing?
Yeah, I treat the guitar completely equally with all of the other instruments in my mind.
Hmm.
And so there's just so much music that doesn't call for it because guitars, they sound like guitars. I mean, they can sound like lots of things, but they're used so much in music that nonetheless, they still sound like guitars.
For sure.
Even the fretless guitar, to a person who knows about that, that it's identifiable, and you got it. That's right. I guess the fretless guitar would be one of the least guitar sounding guitars you could have.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
but what I wanted was hospital sounds. I wanted sounds that evoke the environment that the story lives in and the mood. Um, and to me, guitar really feels so. It feels so. I guess to some extent, it feels like meta music when you use guitar because it's like it's like pointing to itself because when at least in my case because people know I'm playing it.
Hmm.
Anyone who follows my work knows probably that that's my main instrument, probably,
Yeah,
and I wanted to, I wanted I guess I wanted to take the listener out of this idea of we're gonna listen to this music to hear clever shit. Like I didn't want anyone to be looking for clever musical ideas when they're listening to this or thinking about my guitar playing or my experience or any of that. I just wanted them to be immersed in this sound world with the hospital sounds and stuff. And I mean, it's not that I couldn't have brought guitar in without breaking that world. It's just I didn't have any ideas for it.
Hmm.
Like someone else probably could have figured it out, but yeah, it's just another instrument. Sometimes it's a little bit too noticeable, and for those reasons, I'm out, as they say on Shark Tank.
Yeah, awesome. No, I feel like that intention definitely came through. The sort of the sound world of this record is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's sort of
It's supposed to be kind of like this buzzy, anxious space where beautiful stuff can emerge, but it's always kind of a tide between beauty and anxiety, just kind of going back and forth.
absolutely, yeah.
I wanted to ask, you've been in multiple projects for a long, long time. How do you manage separating ideas out when you have a certain music idea? How do you put that to Ben Levin Group or Bent Knee, or is there some kind of interplay between the two?
It has a lot to do with the writing process. Uh, well, I guess it changes from song to song, but in in Bent Knee, the writing process is so collaborative that you don't want to really bring in a completely finished idea. Like that's actually disadvantageous because you don't play to the band's strengths as much as you could, because when you're in an environment like Bentley where it's all about collaboration, it's all about like a democratic approach to music, you bring in your demo and you sort of hinder people's imaginations. Like, it can be a really useful limitation for a band to have a demo where the parts are there and they have to work within that, certainly. But a lot of the time in Bentley, you get better results if you just leave the sky open for people and let them grow into their own shape. And so when I have a song, when I have a vision for something that's super complete, it's probably better for me to do it on my own than it is to force it upon like the Bentley process. It just doesn't quite make sense. And in the newest album we're working on now with Bentley, we are completely writing in the room together, pretty much. Like, we're actually writing in the studio. So we're recording the album as we're writing it, and everybody is, we've done this to varying degrees in all the old albums, but in this case more than ever, everybody is in charge of everyone else's parts. And that can be messy. Obviously, that can take a long time and have lots of arguments, but this is our fifth album, and we've been together since, in various forms, since 2009. And so at this point, I think we all have like enough emotional maturity to do this finally. But if this had been our first album, we probably wouldn't have been successful with it. So yeah, in the case of Our Place, though, it's sort of an exception to all that, because it really originally, I did pitch it as a Bentley piece, and it was going to be shorter, where I had basically in and out written as one thing that was fairly long. And I knew there needed to be middle stuff, and I thought like, okay, well, Bentley will kind of fill in some of that middle stuff, and it'll be one of our epic songs. It'll be like 8 or 9 minutes long. And everyone liked it, but we never had time or on our album cycle or anything. It never really fit to do that long of a song, and like, it was always a trade-off between learning that song and working that out, or like really working out 3 other songs in that same time. And we have to make albums pretty quickly, and so for that reason, we never really got around to Our Place. And I'm just personally I feel so connected to the lyrics and in and out that I was like, this is probably a thing I should do alone after all that time. And so I took it back, and I'm very glad I did, because there are lines in there like, I see my grandmother, I see my poor uncle telling me in riddles of my place in this world. And I really would feel remiss if I didn't get the chance to sing those words. And yeah, like, it would also be weird to foist that upon someone else.
Sure. You mentioned you have a short album cycle, and then that was one of the things holding that back. Is that self-inflicted, or is that due to the label? How does that work?
It's both. Like, it used to be self-inflicted, and then we got signed partially for our ability to make a good album fast and to tour it really hard. Like, that was part of the reason we were appealing. And so to just basically to meet like originally we were making albums quickly because we wanted to be touring with new albums. I mean, just because we wanted to make albums, like, ultimately that's like why the band exists. But we wanted to be touring new material and not just playing the same stuff over and over again. And then, like, we were writing the material, so it's better to have it recorded, and so then when we got signed, we want to, like, I guess we just want to, we don't want to get creatively dry which is something that can happen if you are too quick and you just keep putting stuff out without giving yourself time to rest.
Hmm.
But we also didn't want to become creatively dry the other way, which is when you don't have enough time pressure and the process just takes way longer than it needs to. So it's sort of like a paradoxical thing where we don't really know how it would feel to really stretch out and make an album for like 2 years
Yeah.
anymore. But at the same time, I don't think we would be actively working on our album for that 2 years because it's the time limit that gets all six of us to put all of our like other various survival needs aside and jobs and stuff to like drive the 2 hours or whatever to meet up with everyone and do it. So yeah, the timeline, the short timeline is just kind of a helpful thing that's now become a law.
Right.
So.
I caught a salmon swimming upstream. I dropped my mother's wedding ring. An eye for an eye, a life for a dream. Native to nothing and hungry. An eye for an eye, a life for a dream. Native to nothing.
This kind of leads into the next question. Obviously, I don't want to get too personal, but I wanted to ask how you've kind of managed earning enough of an income over the years whilst you've been developing your fan base as a musician, and how you survive whilst being so prolific.
Well, it's difficult. I think basically you have to the focus needs to be on planting seeds that will mature later, no matter what is going on in your present. You have to invest in your future creatively. And so in the present, you might be working a job that is not music related, that is necessary for survival. But during that time, you have to make sure, and I know it's difficult because the job takes up time and it makes you tired, but you have to make sure you're planting creative seeds. For example, starting a YouTube channel is like a really obvious one where you have your job, but you have to keep making YouTube videos so that over time you get better at it, and also over time, just because of the way YouTube works, people will notice you more and more and you'll amass an audience, and having an audience is a very good thing because when you make stuff, people hear it and it feels better that way. I like when people hear my stuff, and for the longest time it was people don't hear my stuff. So like I know both sides of that, and I like the part where they hear your stuff better. So that's like important, and so no matter where you're at financially, you have to invest time in this thing that will grow in your future. And I think that's like the key to making a living as a musician is you're probably going to have a period where you don't make a living that way, but during that period you have to make sure that you're cultivating something creatively that could become a living later. I think the reason people fail to make a living as musicians, if that's what they want, is that they get too stuck in the present worries and don't have enough faith that their seed will grow into something nice. Like for example, if you start a Patreon right now and nobody really knows your work, of course you're not going to make a living off of Patreon. Like, of course, if you start a YouTube channel right now and nobody knows your work, you're not going to currently make a living off of YouTube revenue. And if you start a wedding band right now, you're not going to make a living off of wedding gigs because nobody's going to know about you yet. And there's like all these ways to make a living as a musician that if you just start them right now, there's like a 0% chance you'll make money. How are you going to get students? If you start right now, you're probably not going to have very many students if you just say, I'm teaching. But for all those things, if you start them right now, there's a pretty good chance that in 3 years you will be making a living. Especially if you can find a way to start 2 or 3 of those things rather than just one, like a YouTube channel and a Patreon. That's pretty easy. A wedding band and a teaching operation. That's pretty easy. Like, it's not actually easy, but like you can do both. And so my point is just that you have to start stuff now to make money later, and it's a very simple concept to hear, but it's very hard to practice when you're tired or when your time is minimal, when you don't have much time. So that would be, I think, the way to do it. For me personally, I lucked out because I went to Berkeley, and Berkeley is really helpful for having a career, especially as a teacher, because I just went on Reddit and I was like, I went to Berkeley, I'm making videos of everything I've learned and giving it away for free, which is like an appealing thing, because Berkeley ain't free.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I was really lucky. I could start making money teaching on Skype pretty quickly because I just I had basically bought the ability, by going to Berkeley, I bought the ability to make people want to study with me.
Right.
And it took a little bit of luck and savvy to make to like even bother posting to Reddit back then when Reddit was smaller. But yeah, I'll say it again because I think it's so important, is that there's no shame in having a job outside of music at all. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it can be very smart. It can be very liberating. It's just absolutely vital if you're really serious about making a living making music, which is different than making music. It's absolutely vital that you start the things that don't make money now, that you want to be doing later. You have to start them as soon as possible, and don't wait till you're ready. Just do it. You can't get ready by waiting.
Right. That's really useful advice. Thank you.